Hello, welcome to the Maya Toolbelt. We're continuing our environment project. You can see since the last video, we added this upper structure here. I did that in class last week. So we pretty much just have this kind of curving structure going up, and it could probably use a little bit of tweaking before it's considered done. Like I have a bit of a crooked line through here. It probably needs to be a bit smoother through here, but that just takes some doing. And we have this kind of arch piece up here above the door and windows. And in the part prior to this one where I had no audio, I did do this structure here that's above the column that's coming out. Hopefully you guys were able to get something out of that. I did do a lot of reusing of these wall pieces to get these pieces, so that's one way to kind of save time. And also these top parts of the column, right now these are kind of bare. I do plan on adding more details to this section of the column because in the actual image, which I'll put here, there's a lot of little details and such, and we'll get to those at some point. But right now we just have kind of the basic shape. So yeah, what should we do next? So at this point, what we have here, if I grab it all and Control D to duplicate it all, Control G to group, I can then change the pivot point of my group to be like this little corner up here, and then if I then move this to snap to that piece, you can kind of see how it well, let me make sure I snap it to the right vertex right there. So now you can kind of see how it kind of blends together. Shift D, snap it this next one to that one, Shift D, and it just kind of starts propagating down the line. So yeah, this is kind of our wall piece. So once we have this section that we have done all textured and stuff, we can then just kind of duplicate it down the road and get the rest of that wall. So it's essentially done with the modeling, essentially. There's obviously things we can do, but let's undo all that stuff and get back to our original file. Make sure I don't have my duplicate still. Okay, so I don't have any duplicate meshes in here now. So I can kind of take a break from this whole stuff and we can look at the picture and see, you know, what can we move on to next for this project. We already have, you know, the door essentially modeled. We have this stuff up here modeled. We still need to do like the glass and things, but I think when we get to the texturing phase, we'll work on the glass and stuff like that. We have these arch pieces, and you know, once we get more into the texturing things, we can fine tune those. So obviously the next big things in the room that kind of take up a lot of real estate, if you want to call it that, it would be like the chandeliers. So that could be fun. So let's look at this big chandelier. There's only a couple of them in the room. All right, so let's look at this chandelier. The big one in the middle of the room has a lot of pieces to it, but once we have, you know, a part of it done, we can duplicate it around for the rest of them. But it does have a lot of light fixtures to it, but again, once we model one of them, we kind of have all of them, right? So we just have to see if we can get a good view of one of them, or we can go online and look up more reference images and see if we can't find a better photo of this chandelier or something very similar to it. So let me do that real quick. I'm gonna pause the video and kind of see if I can find a good image. Okay, I'm back. So I did find a few more images. None of them were like super clear, so we might just have to kind of look at the image we have and just kind of guesstimate. That's okay though. So let's see here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of block in the shape using what I have here for scale, because we do have this kind of let's go ahead and make a polygon cylinder. Pretty big one. Okay, and I'm going to rotate this one 90 degrees. And what I'm going to do is kind of make a temporary ceiling. So subdivisions axis, I'll do like 60, a whole bunch that way. and we'll scale this up somewhere around there. And now what I want to do is cut it in half. Right view. I'll go in the right view here, select faces, and I'll select the ones that make up half the face, half the cylinder, and delete them. So now we have this. I'm going to go to mesh display and reverse the normals. So now its normals are reversed in this direction. Alright, so now I need to kind of judge how big this should actually be. And again, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. This is pretty close. Somewhere around there. Of course, it's going to be a lot longer to fill up the ballroom once we actually have the actual size. So I'm going to move my pivot point down here and kind of align it to the side of this thing here. So this isn't going to be actually where it is in the final room, but we kind of just wanted kind of guesstimate what this is going to look like size wise. So because the chandelier will go all the way up to the top of this alcove that's carved into the ceiling. Okay, so now I'm going to, let's just create a cylinder, or yeah, cylinder again. I'm gonna get rid of the caps, make the subdivisions axis down to something like 6 or something really small, and let's point snap it to the middle of our cylinder here, bring it up, and we can scale it in this way, make it really thin. And this isn't the final. Again, we're just kind of blocking in the shape. So this thing comes down, and again, looking at the picture, just kind of seeing how far down this comes down. This will come down, looks like about to the top of the window here. So about right there, and then it kind of spreads out to more of a conical shape. So I'm going to grab this face, edit mesh, extrude this out, and then I'm going to scale this one up so it's going to be that cone shape. And again, like I said, I'm just kind of blocking this in, and this will come down, looks like it comes down approximately around here somewhere. I'm just going to extrude this face again, edit mesh, extrude, and I'm going to scale it out like this. So again, just kind of blocking in a shape to kind of represent the chandelier. Then I'll extrude again and bring this down, kind of scale it in like this. And it looks like this should be a little bigger and just be more round. So we'll kind of scale this in like this. So something like that is the kind of space this chandelier will take up, and it reaches all the way up there. So with this piece now, I can get rid of that, or actually I'll save that. I'll make a new layer down here, click this one with this new layer, and I'll just hide it that way. Okay, and then I have all these pieces. I'm going to make a new layer for them and hide them. I'm going to double click on layer 2 here and name it door column. Save. Okay, so here's my chandelier thing. So now that I have this kind of blocked in piece, what I want to do is go to the grid and kind of center this on the grid. So let's go to modify center pivot, so that my pivot is centered, and I'm going to make the translate XYZ 000 like so, and then I'm going to raise this up so that we're kind of working on the grid like this. Okay, and then I can delete the history of this object. Now again, this is just my placeholder. I'll make a new layer, and this one I'll make, here we go, this third box. You click it once, it becomes a template, And then when I just let it be, you can see the outline of that object now, but I can't select it or anything. And I can just leave it there for now, and it will be my guide. I can change the background color to make it a little more visible if I need to. Whatever works. Maybe we'll work with this kind of gray view for now. Okay, so let's see here. Let's look at the chandelier and actually think about how we're going to make this thing. I think the easiest thing to do would be to start with one of these arms with the light attached to it. I'm trying to make sure, let's see, I'm looking at it. Again, I'm just trying to figure how it's actually constructed. It looks like each arm kind of branches into multiple light fixtures, and it's hard for me to gauge exactly how many on one arm based on the photos. It looks like 3. So like an arm will branch off, will come off of it, and then kind of branch into 3 little arms that all have a light on it. That's what it looks like. So again, we're not necessarily wanting to match this exactly, but I do want to try and use this as a good guide for what exactly it is I'm working on. I couldn't find a really good close picture of the chandelier. I imagine there's one out there, I just haven't found it. So instead of stressing about that too much, I'll just kind of get started. So let's work on the actual light fixture itself. So I'm going to create, let's start with a cylinder, I think. Alright, and I'm just going to untemplate my guide for a second, point snap it to the end here, and then template it again. So I'll kind of just start right here and see how that goes. Okay, so subdivisions caps, I'll take down the 0. Don't want those caps. And I'll grab the bottom face, edit mesh, bevel. And I want a kind of large bevel here. Let's increase the segments, kind of round it off like this. So we kind of get that lower half of our light fixture. And the light fixture does kind of come up and become kind of flower petal-y. It's kind of a petal look to the upper half of the light fixture. So let's go to edit mesh, extrude, pull this up and scale it out. We'll grab this edge loop, pull it down a little bit, and we'll bevel it, edit mesh bevel. Again, kind of rounding it off like that. Grab this interior face, edit mesh. Let's see, let's go ahead and extrude it. I'm going to give it some thickness. Extrude again and pull it down. Scale that in like this. Okay. Extrude all of the rings. So I'm going to grab this edge, shift select this edge, shift double click that edge, grabs the whole ring. I'm going to go to select, convert selection to faces. So I have all those faces selected. Edit mesh, extrude. Okay, so we're pulling this up. I'm going to go ahead and kind of scale those out like this. Now what I want to do is create kind of a petal look. So let's just grab every other edge and pull that up and see how if that gives me the look I'm going for. So you can spend this extra time on one of these guys, because once you get it done, the rest of them, it can just be all duplicated from the original. So now I have this. So now I want to select one of these edges, shift double click that edge to grab all of them, and now I'll bevel that. And I think that's going to get me closer to the look I want. Yeah, okay, now we're talking. Let's increase the segments, increase the fraction a bit. So now we're getting something like this. Let's see, adjust the fraction so it's not quite so pointy. I'm going to round it off so fraction is going all the way up to 1 in this case. I sometimes like to play with these other settings just to see if they might give me a result I like better. But auto fit, let's see, does auto fit give me something like better? I kind of like that actually. So I turned auto fit off and adjusted the roundness a bit, and I kind of like what that did better than what I had before. Okay, so now we have this. That's pretty good. And what I can do, go back to click on my inputs here, poly extrude face 8, and I can grab this and see if adjusting the height of this gives me anything like better, and kind of fine tune it. So I'm thinking, I think around there. That's probably about where I was to begin with. A little bit lower actually, so not too bad. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'll grab the outer edge loop of the goblet shape, go to edit mesh bevel. I'm going to bevel that edge. Let's see, select contiguous edges. There we go. So I got this whole edge loop. Kind of bring it down and scale it. And I can shift double click this edge ring and bring it up. Make sure I get the whole ring. There we go. Okay, and I think it might be a little too tall, so I'm gonna grab this bottom section here and pull it up a little bit. So there, now we have kind of our flower shaped piece for the chandelier. Let's go to mesh display and soften the edges. See what that gives us. I'm going to harden this face down here, edit mesh display, harden edge, that piece. So we're getting some artifacting through here. So you can see what's happening here. We have all these let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sided faces and such. So we're getting some issues with our geometry. We can fix that for sure. And one thing it might be easiest to fix that with, let's delete that face, and let's go ahead and just kind of cut this thing in half right through there. Delete that. Go to the top view, and let's go ahead and cut this in half that way. So we can fix like a quarter of this thing, and then just kind of duplicate it around for the rest of it, so we don't have to fix the entire object. We just fix a portion of it. So I'm going to grab these little edges, make sure I get all the ones I want to get rid of. The ones on the inside of it aren't quite as important since we won't really be seeing them, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it while I'm doing it here. Edit mesh, delete edge, so I'm deleting those edges. And then I'll go to mesh tools, multi-cut, and I'll cut a line from this point to that point. So this gives me these four-sided faces that are a little bit cleaner to render. And at this point, I'm just going to make a cut right through here. So now let's see what that looks like. If I duplicate that, actually what I'm going to do is scale it -1 in the x-axis, like this. Okay, so now we have this. I can, just like I did with the base of the column, if you remember, we're going to mesh, combine. I'm going to grab these vertices at the seam where we combine these together, and then go to edit mesh, merge those together. And now I'll go to modify, center pivot, snap align my pivot to the middle of the piece here. Control D to duplicate that one now. Scale -1 in the z-axis. Now we have the rest of it. mesh combine, do that again. Grab these vertices around along the middle where they combine together. Edit mesh, merge, mesh display, soften. So it's a little bit better through here now. Up here we're still getting some artifacts. But like I said, the interior is not quite as big a deal since we won't really be seeing it as much. And you can see why. We have these little triangle faces through here that are giving us those more than four-sided faces. But I'm mostly worried about what we're going to see from below like this, because this is where we're going to see it. So now that I have this, I'm going to snap it to the grid and move it over here to the side of the chandelier. I'm going to go to Modify, Freeze Transformations. So now my Translate X, Y, and 0, 0. Duplicate this one now, move it up here, and then move it in a little bit, like this. So something like this. So let's see, I got negative, let's say negative 1.5, oops, negative 1.5, and then positive 4.25, 4.25. There we go. So if I duplicate another one, let's see if we can't make it the opposite. So we have negative 4.25, like that. And we still want negative 1.5 in the Z, so negative 1.5 in the Z. So now these should be mirrored next to this one. So each arm of the chandelier seems to have 3 of these affixed to it. And I think there are 6 arms on the chandelier. So I'm going to move these out here, so something like this. And let's group this, and I'm going to kind of rotate them over here so they're kind of at the corner. So we kind of got this. That's with 6 arms, each with 3 lights on the end. So we might have to adjust our positions a little bit, but you can kind of see the idea. Once we have, let me undo all this stuff. Once we have one of these arms, put it back over here, and we have the positioning the way we like it, we can just duplicate it for all 6 arms to get the full arrangement of chandelier arms around. Now I haven't forgotten, and if you look at the picture again, there's like a second row of lights above that, and I think those are smaller arms with 1 light each, and we'll get to those eventually. But this video has gone on long enough just to do this small amount of work, so I think I'll stop the video here. We'll continue working on the chandelier in the next part, and I'll see you next time.